Okay, so we continue with the teaching. Good evening. I'll read from some other text, modern version. So this one says, our minds are all we have. Our minds are all we have. That means the most important thing that we have is our mind. Our minds are all we have. They are all we have ever had. And they are all we can offer to others. When you seriously think about offering something, it's really what you have with your mind. Okay? Every experience you have ever had has been shaped by your mind. Remare. Right? Every relationship is as good as or bad as it is because of the minds involved. True? Right? If you are perpetually angry, depressed, confused, and unloving, or your attention is elsewhere, it won't matter how successful you become or who is in your life, you won't enjoy any of it. You see, the same thing that is taught in Buddhism, but is said in a way, in a language which everybody can understand. Okay? Then it says, Anila, listen carefully. Then it says, most of us spend our time seeking happiness and security without acknowledging the underlying purposes of our search. Each of us is looking for a path back to the present. We are trying to find good enough reasons to be satisfied now. That is what we do, but we think we are planning for the future. What we need is something now, but what we keep on thinking is what will happen to me tomorrow or next day and so forth. And thereby we don't live. We only breathe, but don't live. There is a difference between existing and living. Right? Existing is not necessarily living. We are all existent, yes, of course. But we need to live. Live means live in the present. Enjoy today. Be happy today. Today is the hard currency. Tomorrow is check, which might bounce back. And what is life? Life is made of sequences of time starting from today. If you waste today, don't enjoy today, you did not enjoy part of your life. Right? There's chen shasho, where the major. There's go che chodo shasho, chiglemna. Odu shash. Okay? Chezwa clear? Enjoy every moment, every second, every day, every hour. If you do that today, tomorrow also you will be able to do. So that way you will have a happy life. Contrarily, if you think, I will only be happy when I finish my school, when I get married, when I bought a big house, when I have a car standing at my courtyard and things like that, as I said yesterday. When you get all these things, then you again think, what next? Can never be happy. So be happy now. And there are many, 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 many reasons why you should be happy now. One reason is, out of many, just to give you a clue, one of the reasons is, for example, you are not a dog right now, you are a human being, right? Imagine if you are a dog. I'm not giving you the worst example. Imagine if you are a cockroach. Imagine if you are a mosquito or insect, something like that, you see? Really? Or even some other animals. All they think and care about is just get a mouthful of food. Nothing else they can do. But we are intelligent, thinking, living, clever human beings. Now, even among human beings, how many are there who are without eye, without hand, without legs, without family, without friends? People who are constantly, year after year, caught between cross-firing. Still, imagine, we are very lucky, very happy. So it's not enough just to say I'm happy. You need to use these wonderful facilities that you have at your disposal. You should use your eye and make yourself different from those who don't have eye. Because you have these two hands, use it, so that you prove yourself different from those people who don't have hands. When people who don't have eye, don't have hands, they expect and think, how nice if I have both of my eyes intact, both of my hands intact, then I can do this, I can do that, you see. And the tragedy is people who have, they don't do. Because we don't appreciate what we have. It's amazing thing, the things that we have, human beings. The great intelligence, and then the being able to walk straight with free hands, use your mobile, whatever, you see. Well, look at other animals, none of them have that facility. They have to walk on four limbs, none of it is free. And if you read science, you will learn how much struggle we underwent to get straight, to be able to walk. It is said in the beginning we are also like other animals, but with a lot of attempts to get up, generation after generation, then finally we are able to do that. Right? So that's why in Buddhism we call it precious human life. Primarily because of this great human intelligence. As I said yesterday, but if you use this human intelligence in the wrong direction, then your life is not precious human life, but what is the opposite for precious? Opposite of precious. Destructive human life, or whatever you want to call it. Worse than animals. And that is unfortunately happening today. People primarily use this wonderful human intelligence in the wrong way, just to, exploit others, just to, look down upon others, just to discriminate others, just to fulfill one's material greed. Doesn't care about air, doesn't care about water, doesn't care about environment. And the amount of destruction that we have done today to the environment, to the water, to the air, the pollution, it is there for all of us to see. And this is not done by lions or tigers or snakes. They are done by the so-called clever human beings. So we really need to think, discuss, and use this great human intelligence for peace, for happiness, for love, for harmony. We need to talk about it, share with our friends, and play our part. Even if it is a very small part, must play our part to contribute to the betterment of the world. And that is the only task why we are here in this world. You see? Right? And then he continues, there are many, many things he has written, beautiful things, but he continues, I have highlighted some of them. He says, how we pay attention to the present moment largely determines the character of our experience and therefore the quality of our lives. So paying attention to the present means pay attention to your life right now and be watchful, be fully alert, aware, mindful, cognizant, and then see, judge yourself, what am I speaking? What kind of languages I'm using when I talk to other people? In which direction am I going? To the wrong direction where you can get problem, or to the right direction? There's the meaning of being present. Being present. To be able to get that reliable happiness, to be able to get that security that you want. And much of the problem that we experience is because of our own doing, by going to the wrong place, by associating with bad friends, as we read yesterday. Right? So not only this kind of advices are given in ancient philosophy, including Buddhism, but there is now a growing body of scientific research substantiating these ancient intuitions. Right? So we are basically talking about transforming and changing our mind. So in order to transform our mind, to change our mind, yes, we can follow different religious traditions, but this writer, and I fully agree with this, and he's saying that in a way it may be complicated, but in a way it is not very complicated. Therefore, people like His Holiness is talking about secular ethics, and many people are talking about secular ethics without religion, and many people are talking about spirituality, not talking about religion. Many are talking about science, not talking about religion. Right? So therefore he says, and yet the change, he relates his own experience by saying, and yet the change in my consciousness, he talks about the change that took in his mind. And he says, yet the change in my consciousness seemed entirely straightforward. I had ceased to be concerned about myself. You see, look at this. What he is saying is not saying that you don't take care of yourself, but what he is saying is, as is said in Buddhism, this obsession with the self. Always thinking about I, me and mine, and completely ignoring and forgetting others. So he's saying the same thing. I had ceased, because the more you develop this more wider perspective, global perspective, the needs of other sentient beings, the law of nature and so forth, then you see, then he says, I had ceased to be concerned about myself. I was no longer anxious, self-critical, guided by irony, in computation, avoiding embarrassment, ruminating about the past and future, or making any other gestures of thought or attention that separated me from others. I was no longer watching myself through another person's eyes. This is another point, you see. So you should neither get obsessed with yourself, thinking that you are the center of the universe. Rest are other satellites moving around you. You see, we used to think like that, not only about oneself, but we used to think about the earth as the center of the universe, geocentric. Right? And then later on with the, invention of telescope and the scientific, instruments, it was found that it is heliocentric. Sun is in the center, not the earth. But in those days when we don't have those scientific instruments, we used to believe earth is in the center. The main reason is because we are living on the earth. You can see the stupidity and the selfishness. Right? And then the second point he's making is, I was no longer watching myself through another person's eyes. We always so much concern about what she will say about me, what he will say about me. How should I dress? How will I look in front of those crowd? Things like that. As if you are tailored, as if you are made to suit to the needs of other people. Right? But just as other people have their life, you have your life. You choose your life. You're not there to dance at the tune of other people's music. Right? You lose your independence. Right? And he says, then came the insight that irrevocably transformed my sense of how good human life could be. I was feeling boundless love for one of my best friends, and I suddenly realized that if a stranger had walked through the door at that moment, he or she would have been fully included in this love. Love was at bottom impersonal and deeper than any personal history could justify. Again, this sounds quite similar to what the Buddha is teaching. Buddha always, tells us to have that unconditional love with the realization that others are exactly like you, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. Not because somebody is your brother, your sister, not from that perspective. Right? Same. When you open up, of course, we live under this big earth and big sky. Same, the sky is same, the earth is same. And in between, those of us from different countries or whatever, we are basically same. Same primarily in terms of human emotion. Wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. Exactly same. Right? Okay? So the experience was not of love growing, but of it is being no longer obscured. We all have that, if you read pieces on nature versus nurture and things like that, or if you talk about the basic human nature, according to many thinkers, is gentleness. The capacity to have compassion, the capacity to have love, it is there with all of us. The capacity even to become Buddha is there with all of us. But we are not able to make it manifest, we are not able to express it because it is obscured. Just like the sun obscured by the cloud. As soon as the cloud goes away, the brilliance of the sun comes forth. You see? Right? So there are lots of interesting things like that. I just don't want to keep on reading this. We need to finish the text. But I was reading this to tell you, wisdom is wisdom from any quarter. You say it in different languages, but these are perennial truths. And we need to accept that, cherish that, cultivate that, and nurture that. So that is all I'm trying to do. Okay, then we were reading verse number 27, 28, 28. Yeah, 28. So verse number 28 says, associating with infants, who in every aspect is just like an enemy, leads to suffering. Those who associate with infants will regret it a long time afterwards. So infants means people who have, people who are stupid, people who are foolish and stupid. Because if you associate them, you won't get any wisdom, okay? And because of their stupidness, primarily in the sense of their ignorance, their confusion, if you associate them, you will also get confused. Right? The reason that you will get suffering if you associate with this infant-like people or child like people, then it's really like associating with fire. If you associate with fire, you will be burnt. So here primarily infants are those who are stupid, ignorant, and also negative. So if you associate with such ignorant, negative people, you will have to regret later on. So that's what he's saying. Those who associate with infants will regret for a long time, for a long time afterwards. We all have that experience, I regret that I made friendship with such and such person. I regret that I traveled with such and such person. I trusted that person, he cheated me. We have many accounts like that. So you need to be very careful. Okay? In Buddhism, we talk about the importance of development of both compassion and wisdom. So compassion does not mean to say that you let yourself exploited by others easily. To ensure that you are not exploited easily by other people, you need to use your brain. Wisdom means brain. Compassion must be there, but that compassion should not be like compassion without logic or without reason. Just stupid emotion. We are not talking about just stupid emotion. Compassion primarily, as I said already, with the realization that others are exactly like you, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering, with that kind of understanding. You use the reason and logic. So similarly, when you associate with that person, you know that person also wants happiness, does not want suffering. But at the same time, you also need to protect yourself. So for that, you need to use your brain. So to be compassionate doesn't mean you become a doormat. This is important. Otherwise, many people, they practice so-called compassion, then later on they suffer from compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue is another things. In many hospitals in America, nurses, doctors, they are suffering from emotional fatigue or compassion fatigue. Because the so-called compassion they develop is not based on genuine compassion, genuine love, not based on reason, not based on logic. So first few days, because of your expertise and professionalism, you may work very hard, then there is no depth of that compassion, then you get tired and experience emotional burnt out. Many people suffer from that. And I give the example of the mothers, Why these nurses and doctors in the hospital are suffering from compassion fatigue and not the mothers, generally speaking? Generally speaking. I mean, of course, there may be mothers who may be suffering from compassion fatigue while, dealing with their children, but generally speaking, no. The mothers looking after children is one of the most difficult job. There's no question of day and night, right from the conception. And then after the birth, at least for several years, day and night, you need to look after that child who doesn't know what he wants, But still mothers praising the child, talking about the child, they don't suffer from compassion fatigue because that is genuine love. That's what I think. But in the hospitals, you suffer because you have professionalism, but you don't have that genuine concern, genuine love. And if you have that genuine love, as we say, love minimizes fault. You don't see the fault. You really like that person. You are almost like one with that person. And because of that, you just simply happy to be with that person. Right? For example, if you are somebody who really loves your father, loves your mother, you don't feel tired. And you feel it is a privilege to be able to serve my father, serve my mother, because there's genuine love. Right? That's what I think. Okay? So that's why it is said that these infants are in every aspect like an enemy, leading to suffering. So let us say if you are associating with an enemy, you are surrounded by enemy day and night, how can you enjoy? So similarly, if you are associating with a wrong person, live with that person, how can you enjoy? And I have seen couples having married, fighting almost every day. You see, it's a clear example. How can you enjoy? You see, right? Verse 29, an individual who is a thoroughbred is a rarity, not found everywhere. Those who associating with the steadfast will have happiness, just like meeting relatives, exactly what I said. Wherever such stability is developed, happiness will be actualized due to their lineage. Okay? Now, those people who have stability means those who have superior intelligence, superior knowledge. Okay? So if you associate with these people with stability, so such people with such stability, meaning that superior inner quality is very difficult to meet. That's the meaning of individual who is thoroughbred is rare, it's difficult found everywhere. So, but if you found somebody like associating with His Holiness, those who associating with the steadfast means the same thing, the people who are, qualified, who have love, who have compassion. If you associate with them, then there will be happiness, just like meeting your relatives. And in fact, in Tibetan we use the word mandip and zahi, relatives and friends which you had never met before, something like that. It's like the elements, The water is helping us. It's like our friend, relatives. Earth is our friend. It's supporting us forever. Never complain. So like this great element, some of these great beings like His Holiness Dalai Lama and so forth, they are always thinking about well-being of other people. So just not only to stay with them, but just to catch a glimpse of them, you get happiness. Right? You will have happiness just like meeting relatives. Relatives means those necessarily with the bond of blood, but the real relatives are those who are always ready to help you, benefit you, but not expecting anything back. The earth doesn't expect anything back. The wind doesn't expect anything back. Right? These great elements, which are the source of our nourishment, they simply nourish us, nurture us, never ask anything back. Great parents who love their children, they simply are happy when their children are growing and getting educated and flourishing. They don't expect anything back. That's the sign and indication of true love, true compassion. Just that other people are doing well and flourishing, you are happy, you don't get jealous. I may know you or not know you, but if as and when I see she is doing good or he is doing good, I feel happy. Wonderful, there is one person at least who is happy. Wonderful. I pray that he continue to be happy. Yungurvati. If there is that affection, if there is love. Because at the core of our being, we all want happiness, do not want suffering. But unfortunately, we do encounter a lot of hurdles. You see. And I'm not only talking here, in my own room, 2 of my cousins are staying with me. So almost every day I repeat, we are happy, we are lucky. Now they have also started saying, this morning my cousin said several times, he went to the morning class and after that he came back. Very happy morning, you see. You need to enjoy what you're doing. If you smile at somebody, you don't lose anything. If you say few nice words, you don't lose anything. And just by using few nice words, it might change the life of somebody. It is possible. I'm not kidding, it is really possible. Because today in the world there are many people who are lonely, sad, and nobody to talk to, nobody to associate. So for these people, even if they found just one person to whom they can easily pour their heart out, as I told you the story yesterday, you can help, you see. You can make their day. Right? Right? So wherever such stability is developed, happiness will be actualized due to their lineage. Lineage means these kinds of people. So meeting with them is really like meeting your very beloved brother, sister, father, mother. Right? Of course, a question arises, if this is the case, then why don't we start associating with these very important people? And then the text says, these very important people are also very difficult to find. Not easy. Gold is more difficult to find. Diamond is even more difficult to find. But dust is everywhere. It's another way of nature, you see. So therefore, the fact that we are doing Dharma practice is to be able to associate with these people, or to be able to become one by inculcating these positive qualities. Okay? So among horses, among elephants, there are some very special, types which is not easily found. So these people who are very, compassionate and so forth, they are stable. They are stable because there is inner stability. They know the reality. So therefore, they don't become fickle. Right? And if with the presence of such people, with such kind of types, such lineages, it will help, grow more such people. So these people, they abide in happiness and also become a source of happiness for others. Brahmins who have transcended suffering engage in total happiness, one who is not tainted by attachment and who is uncontaminated and totally liberated. So Brahmins who have transcended suffering engage in total happiness. Verse number 30. Total happiness. Total happiness, because if you have transcended suffering, and especially if you have reached a state where you don't have craving and grasping, don't have obsession with anything, don't have grasping to your ego, to yourself, you and don't harm others, then you have nothing to regret. Mentally you have nothing to regret. Because of this, you can sleep very peacefully. Contrarily, if you have vindictiveness, resentment, enmity, harmful intention, then even if you are living in a very nice accommodation with all the nice facilities, still because of this resentment, ill will, negative emotions within yourself, you will never be able to sleep properly on that very soft bed. You will keep on changing sides, thinking about that person, how to revenge, things like that. And that's why His Holiness is saying that don't develop these negative emotions towards the Chinese, especially the Chinese leaders who did all these wrong things to the Tibetans. Because if you develop such negative emotions, it will not harm them, it will harm you. Right? It's very, very true. You will become the first casualty. If you develop any negative emotion towards anybody, that anybody may not even know what is going on in your mind. But poor fellow, you are suffering there. So kongdosa. Chakbache karche duna delitena, so, yangruma. And if you want to challenge the wrongdoing, then the best way of challenging the wrongdoer is empower yourself with knowledge, education, not negative emotions. Okay? So here, Brahmins who have transcended suffering. Brahmins here refers to those people who have transcended negativity, who have transcended, negative actions. People who do not engage in negative actions, they are pure. They are pure. So Tamze Brahmin also means pure, because they have transcended negative actions. Transcended negative actions means they have developed renunciation. Developing renunciation means reducing attachment to sensual objects, as we already explained. And because of that, you have completely abandoned grasping to anything. When you have no grasping, you are free. There is a statement by Buddha where he says, I am happy because I have nothing. I mean, look at the paradox. Normally we will say, I am happy because I have this, I have that, right? The Buddha said, I am happy because I have nothing. Thieves come, you will lose nothing. Robbers come, there is nothing to rob. Fires burn things, you have nothing to burn out. And if you want to go somewhere, you just go easily, you see. And for the rest of us, we keep on accumulating so many things, and then all this becomes excess baggage, which you are clearly told at the airport. And Buddha said about this a long time back. Don't hoard too much, don't accumulate too much. When you came into this world, you came with nothing. When you die, you can take nothing, You can survive on minimal of requirements. But of course, we don't pay attention to this. We keep on hoarding, accumulating, Now, at least at the airport, they are practicing the Buddha's teaching. They are saying, don't carry more than 15 kilos. From Dharamsala to Delhi, you can't carry more than 15 kilos. I think most probably in India, unless you pay extra. They'll say, Madam, sorry, excess baggage, you have to pay more. You have to pay more, you see. Bitter truth is told. If you don't listen, it will be told by somebody, you see. And Buddha said, don't kill, don't harm. You don't listen, you kill somebody, you are imprisoned, you see. Whether they call themselves Buddhists or not, but they are implementing the Buddha's teaching. You see. So that's the truth. Okay? So therefore he's saying, one who is not tainted by attachment, if your mind is not tainted by this grasping, craving, and attachment, okay, then you are totally liberated. Okay? Because when you have grasping and grasping, then you are overpowered by these negative emotions. You become victim to these negative emotions. Right? And in fact, today we are becoming slave of material possessions, becoming slave to money. And we come up with sayings, money makes mayor go. Right? So whether it's form or formless, mind, whatever, towards this you should give up your attachment. And if you do that, you will live in happiness. Those who have chopped up all craving and totally cleared infection from the heart, who have attained peace with their minds, are in complete peace and enter into happiness. This is pretty easy. Those who have chopped up all craving, almost like saying the same thing as we read earlier. Because if you have this craving, then there will be a lot of fluctuation in your life. You need to do a lot of running as we are doing today. It's all because of desire and greed. Everybody is busy today. Everybody is running hither and thither. But if you chop piece by piece and do away with this craving, then you will abide. Then these mental tormentations will not be there. Much of mental problems arise because we run for something, we don't get it, then we suffer, we feel unhappy, you see. So it's this greed which makes the whole world run today. It's the desire which makes the whole world run today. Similarly, he's saying it's not just craving, but similarly jealousy, resentment, all these negative emotions. So chopping up here means to abandon, to eliminate craving and so forth. Those who have abandoned of all craving and totally cleared infection from the heart. Look at this word, infection from the heart. Infection is not physical infection, but these negative emotions are disease. What is disease? The English word. Even if you play with this English word, disease, if you split this word into two, dis-ease. From the word, two word, dis-ease. If you're at ease, that was my title in the beginning when I advertised being at ease, which means being happy. Okay? So when you take wrong food, that ease is destroyed and you experience disease. Similarly, when you develop all these negative emotions, you get disease. Disease.
So you're basically saying that being at ease is contrary to disease.
Exactly. Being at ease means well, happy. But when you get angry, disease, you get headache. True?
Yeah.
Temperature increases. All these negative emotions, they are the real enemy. Worse than the external enemy. From outside enemy, human enemies, you can run away. You can ask for their forgiveness. Right? And you should say that I listen to you, spare my life, they'll spare you. But these negative emotions, day in and day out, they are enjoying, playing with you, they are sitting in the headquarters of your mind, and you still think, you see, this is the thing, you know. If I say anger is bad, you will all agree, yes, anger is bad. But when you get angry, then you say, yeah, my anger is different. There's justification. I don't become angry without any reason. There's justification. You see, so anything, you know, when you associate with yourself, you tend to glorify it. That's the problem. Right? Okay? Those who have chopped up all craving and totally cleared infection from the heart. Infection from the heart means when you get angry, your whole mental continuity is tormented, infected, becomes turbulent. Right? Verse number 32. One who wishes to abandon happiness and wanting to throw off small pleasures, the steadfast by giving up small pleasures thoroughly sees extensive happiness. And this is also easy. I think I more or less explained this earlier. I clearly explained there's a difference between pleasure and happiness. And we are pleasure seekers. We mostly go for small pleasures. Especially for fulfilling the needs of your senses. We keep on running, almost spend our whole life trying to satisfy the needs of the senses. And we hardly pay attention to the need of the mind. We cater to the needs of the five senses. We are slave to the five senses. We are enslaved by the five senses. Everything that we are doing today in the market, everything that is done by business people, they are to primarily cater to the need of the five senses. What is flooding in the market is to cater to the needs of the five senses, not to the need of the mind. Okay? But if you compare your five senses with the mind, it is the mind which controls, which is the most powerful thing. So if you train the most powerful thing, it's really like an election, you know. Right now, Let us say there are two parties, positive party, negative party, party of positive emotions, party of negative emotions. So right now, the party of negative emotions almost got a landslide majority victory. So they are ruling us. So through such practices and contemplation, what we need to do is overthrow the rule of the negative emotions and dethrone them, and empower and enthrone the positive emotions. Make wisdom your boss. Make compassion your boss. Right? Then we'll have happiness. So don't run after small pleasures. Running after small pleasures is really like trying to lick, honey on a very sharp blade. Without taking care of that sharpness of the blade, if you just go for the honey and lick it, your tongue might be chopped off by that sharp blade. Okay? Happiness in the worlds of desire and the happiness of the heavens is not the match of a 10th part of the happiness of cessation of suffering, craving. So he's saying that there may be many types of pleasures or temporary happinesses. In the world of desire means the world of human beings, animals and so forth. These are the world of desire. So there are many kinds of happinesses there. And similarly, there are many happinesses in the heavens also. But those happinesses, however good they are not long-lasting. Those happinesses are not a product of having stopped craving, having stopped grasping. So therefore, the happiness that encountered is not the match for a 10th part of the happiness of cessation of craving. If you are somebody who has really stopped craving, stopped grasping, you are filled with happiness. It's not saying that you don't need anything. You need. But when you get these things, why do you have to develop craving? That's what I'm saying. These Buddhist teachings are not like based on craziness. They are not saying that, you stop craving, you don't need clothes, you don't need food, just sit there, I have no craving. No, it's not saying that. You can have. You work hard, you have as many things as you want, especially if you are Bodhisattva, you need many things, not for you, but for helping many other people. If I am millionaire, billionaire, wonderful, I can help many people. Especially in the library, where I'm working as a director. If I have lots of money, I can do so many things. So that's good. So having things is not the problem. The problem is when you get obsessed with it just for yourself. When you get obsessed with it just for yourself. When you get stuck with it, then you become immobile, not mobile, So don't carry mobile. Mobile in the telephone, the landline telephone we used to have, that's not mobile, it is fixed. So now we have mobile phone, which is supposed to be an improvement upon those landline, because there is freedom. Wherever we are going, we take that mobile phone and use it. Right? So if you want similar kind of mobility, freedom, happiness, don't get stuck. And you get stuck through craving. You get stuck with the grasping. You get stuck with the attachment. People don't know about this. So the less you have, the freer you will be. That's the truth. There's a Tibetan which is saying, Kurmena chakpa meyung slabre. Kurbo chimbo ju kure yona, chakpa da zuta diyor, da jala di chikiru do. If you're not carrying any load, there will be no thieves and robbers chasing you. If you're carrying a heavy load, especially quite shiny or nice looking, there are people who are watching you. Okay, this lady seems to be rich, follow her. You see? Right? So, verse number 34. Since it is it comes in the next verse. Since it is the Lord which brought suffering. When the Lord is thrown down, there will be happiness. When heavy loads are thrown down for good, others will not be taken up later. So now here load means the psychophysical aggregate, which is susceptible to suffering. The psychophysical aggregate that we have is really a burden, is a load. Right? And it is because of this we have limited capacity for doing things. Yeah.
I just want to ask from I just want to do a comparison to a Christian verse of cast all your burdens unto me. You know the verse, cast all your burdens unto me? And can you say something about the
Yeah, Tibetan Buddhism also has similar things, There is a prayer which says, may I be able to share all my good things to others, and may I be able to receive all their sufferings upon me. Okay, so in your case it's a slightly different context because you're referring it to Almighty God, who has the capacity, according to your religion, to take their suffering. But even otherwise, ordinarily also we say, may I be able to take their suffering upon myself, and may I be able to give my happiness to others. This is called exchange of self with others. Tonglen, exactly. The reason is, as we have been discussing, the main source of our problem is self-grasping. Thinking just about it's not saying don't take care of yourself, it's just thinking about yourself and totally forgetting others. Right.
Okay, what is this psychophysical?
Psychophysical means, psycho means mind, physical the body. So we have this body and mind, which is basically subjected to suffering. Right? So long as we have this contaminated body and contaminated mind, we are susceptible to suffering. So therefore it has become a load. Now this is one way of seeing things. It doesn't mean to say this body is bad, this mind is bad, it's useless. We are not saying that. Okay? Because from other perspective, this body can be transformed into the precious body of Buddha. This mind can be transformed into the precious mind, wisdom mind of the Buddha. Right? Right? So what it is primarily saying is, so long as you don't remove these negative emotions within yourself, then your body becomes a burden, your mind becomes a burden. They remain contaminated. Okay? Right? So since it is the load which brought suffering, you see, when the load is thrown down, there will be happiness. When heavy loads, so this psychophysical aggregate is really like a heavy load, thrown down for good, means forever. It's not doing away with the body, but the contaminated body. If you are able to remove that contaminated mind and body forever, that means if you are able to remove the negative emotions forever, that's called nirvana, that is called Buddhahood. Okay, others will not be taken up later means then because you have thrown it for good, so you don't have to take a negative rebirth again in the cycle of existence. Thoroughly abandoning all craving to make all classes cease, if all aggregates are thoroughly known, there will be no going to future lives. So that means in order to completely abandon the craving, attachment and so forth, which binds us in the samsara, okay, in order to do that, you need to have full knowledge about the psychophysical aggregate, which I explained earlier, the nature of your psychophysical aggregate. If all aggregates are thoroughly known, that means if you know the nature of your body, nature of your mind, through mindfulness, okay, and then that is really talking about understanding the Four Noble Truth, the truth of the suffering, the truth of the origin of suffering and so forth. And if you are able to thoroughly understand that, then there will be no going to future lives, meaning there will be no conditioned cycle of existence. Right now, the way we are born in the samsara is conditioned. It is due to the causes and conditions, negative emotions and so forth. Okay? But once you remove all these negative emotions, then there will be no contaminated existence in the future lives. You are thoroughly liberated. To fulfill purposes, having a friend is happiness. To one whose love is coming to an end, merit is happiness. Okay? Happiness is when one is well contented with just meager things. Meager spelling is, I think, wrong. M-E-A-G-R, right? Okay. Not G-R-E? Okay. Just meager things. Happiness is with one in whom all sufferings have disappeared. See? So to fulfill purposes, having a friend is happiness. Means to fulfill meaningful purposes. And if you have a Dharma friend or a good friend who can really help you and guide you in that right direction, then there will be happiness. You see? If you associate with a smoker, you will gradually pick up that habit. You associate with a drinker, you'll get associated with that. If you associate with a person with love, with compassion, with stability, you will become one like that. And then you will get happiness, you see. So for ordinary people like us, friend is very, very important. And who are good friends? Good friends are those with whom you, when you associate, if the three poisons, hatred, anger, attachment, ignorance, if these negative emotions get reduced or cease, becomes less by associating with somebody, then this is a clear indication that you are in the company of good friend. But when you associate with somebody, it doesn't matter that person is very nice, spending all the money for you, takes you to a luxurious hotel, buys you a good lunch, whatever. But the more you go with that person, the more your negative emotions increase. Is a clear indication you are with the wrong friend. Okay? So we need to know. So the Buddhist teachings, they say, negative friend does not come to you in a frightening, manner, with black claws and bearing fangs, red eyes, raised hairs. They'll not come like that. They'll also come to you as a very nice one. Come, let us go to nightclub. Come, let us do this. Don't worry about money. I'll take care of all of these things. Okay? So in this way, if they drag you slowly into that quagmire of bad things, then you get stuck there. You will not be able to come up. This is how people get stuck, gradually enter into a group of gangs. You see? Okay? To one whose love is coming to an end, merit is happiness. That means at the end of the day, when you die, what is it that will be useful to you? You cannot take your friends, relatives with you. You cannot take your money, your hard-earned money, even if you have several, billions of money in the bank. You can't take any of, even a single penny. We have all heard the story of Alexander the Great, who looted many countries. And then at the end of the day, when he was on his deathbed, there's a story, he tells all his generals to bring all that sacks of gold which he has looted. And then he did like this and he died. See, I've looted and I have all these bags and bags of gold, but see, I'm going empty-handed, you see. So at that time, the only thing that can help you is merit, meaning that if you did something positive, if you had made your mind habituated with positive ways of thinking, positive ways of life, that mind goes with its positive habit, and that will help you. Merit basically means mind with positive habit. The habit continues. The mind continues with its habit. It will help you. A clear example is, for example, today in the day, if you violently fight with somebody, and then that leaves a very negative imprint on the mind. And because of that, it's very likely that in the night also you might be fighting again. Although you are sleeping, but you might be fighting again. Because you formed a habit and you continue to experience the result of that habit. Contrarily, if you had, for example, seen His Holiness Dalai Lama or did something wonderful, then there's a likelihood that in the dream also you will see His Holiness the Dalai Lama again. You don't have to ask for separate audience. His Holiness will be there in your room. You see, these amazing things, you see. Okay? And then happiness is when one is well contented with just meager things. It is not saying that you become a pauper, you become a beggar. It's not saying that. But whatever you have, you should be contented with that. Contentment is the real, richness. If you are not contented, the king who has all his kingdom but still always hungry, always thinking about conquering other piece of land. The countries are doing that, right? So they are always hungry. And the beggar has nothing, but is very happy, singing, dancing. Normally you see the beggars, they are singing and dancing. They have time for singing, time for, I'm not saying that you should become beggar, but all I'm saying is if you live like a beggar, then there will be an opportunity to use your inner mental resources. When you lose everything, it's interesting. When you lose everything, you are compelled to turn inside. When you lose everything, you're left with nothing but to smile. It's the only solution. You see? So why don't we, understand this much in advance and start doing all this much in advance? Right? Okay. Happiness is with one in whom all sufferings have disappeared. This is true. Just as to a fire that is burning due to being struck by a hammer gradually cools down and do not know how it is gone, similarly those who have crossed the quagmire of desire attain the unwavering state and are completely liberated, cannot be termed, designated as migrators. So meaning that just as when you if you want to change the shape of a piece of iron, something like that, you put it into the fire, make it red, and then it becomes malleable, then you beat it and fashion it in according to whatever size you want to make it. But when you do that, and when you cool that burning iron, the red burning fire, where did it go? Where did the heat go? You can't trace it out, but the change has taken place. So similarly, when you remove all these negative emotions within yourself, then all these designations doesn't remain. Okay? Similarly, those who have crossed the quagmire of desire attain the unwavering state and are completely liberated, cannot be termed, designated as migrators. So ordinarily with the migrators, that means sentient beings, we have a name, that you are from South Africa, that you are from England, that you are from America, that you are from Tibet, and things like that. Okay? But according to some Buddhist schools of thought, they even say that when you reach such a state, then you don't even have to come with all this, ordinary physical aggregates. You cease to exist as we normally do. That's what they say. Okay. Those in whose hearts turmoil does not exist, who are turned from existence and non-existence, they are fearless, happy, and without lamentation. Even the gods look on, but are found unthinkable. So that means, what makes you, disturbed is your inner turmoil. And when that inner turmoil is not there, then there is really not much distinction between existence and non-existence, meaning that they are just by name. There's nothing called existence having inherent existence. There's nothing having non-existence having independent inherent existence. Okay? And when you don't have that grasping towards existence, non-existence, then you have no fear, fearless, because fear comes from grasping. And if you remember that Heart Sutra, Shirav Nyingbo, similar dipa mebe trakpa medo. There is a line which says similar dipa mebe trakpa medo. When your mind is obscured, you have fear. When your mind is free from obscuration, there's no fear. Similar dipa mebe trakpa medos. So the fear comes because you have grasping. Right? And then if you don't have that grasping, then there will be no fear, you are fearless and you are happy. And if you are happy, then there will be no lamentation, no suffering. Verbally also you don't have to complain again and again, I have this problem, that problem. Those verbal lamentations will also not be there because you don't have physical and mental suffering. And when you reach such a state, even the gods look on but are found unthinkable. That means even the gods surprise, oh my goodness, what a state they have achieved. Even otherwise it is said that the heavenly gods, they have certain facilities, wonderful facilities, like living in like the way very rich people in the world live today, So they may wear very fashionable garments and delicious foods and so many, things, fancy things to enjoy, but they don't know how to get rid of the suffering because they are so obsessed with things. Okay? So when you see kind of human beings who have reached that state and fearless and happy and without lamentation, even the gods look and they don't know how to explain it. Wow, how did you achieve it? So there is a saying that the gods pray that may I be born as a human being. Because the benefit is in the human realm, we see all these problems, difficulties, sufferings. And these sufferings, as I said yesterday, are introduction to happiness. Because these sufferings make you think. Sufferings means challenges. When you have these challenges, when you have these sufferings, then you start thinking how to overcome these sufferings. Then you start renunciation. Then you get liberated from such sufferings. Right? So sometimes I wonder, people who are in Hollywood and Bollywood, who are extremely rich. So I sometimes wonder whether they ever think about death. You see? And if you don't think, imagine when they suddenly get that problem, which they're bound to get. For example, if a very famous person suddenly, who never thought about all these possible problems, suddenly, learns that he or she is suffering from cancer. They will be mesmerized, shocked completely. Whereas ordinary people, they are very familiar with these things. And especially in today's world, you see, people are not allowed to see dying people. They just quietly die in the hospital and they whisked away. And, we do many strange things. And then we decorate the graveyard with flowers and wash them, embalm them, so many things. We don't want to see the ugly side. We think death is an ugly side, but in reality it is nothing ugly. It is one part of reality, right? Okay. Someone who has here heard extensively have realized Dharma, though destitute, is happy indeed. So even in terms of material facilities, you may be poor, you may be destitute, but when you have these inner resources, you are happy. You are happy. And in Tibetan history, we have the cases of a very famous practitioner, Milarepa, who had virtually nothing. Nothing means nothing. And I'm telling you, not only this famous story of Milarepa, which I don't know, have you heard about Milarepa? Not only that, I have seen modern Milarepa. I have seen my eye. Because we have a teacher called Tihor Kyorpan Rinpoche who fled from Tibet, very famous practitioner and erudite scholar. So when he did his final exam, on the day he was to appear final exam, he ran away. He said, all these names and designations, I don't need, you see. He ran away. So anyway, when the Chinese came, he was able to escape, and he spent long time in Dalhousie, which is not in the same state, not very far from here. Of course, I didn't see him, but I had my schooling in Dalhousie. So one day, with the help of my teacher, who asked me to come with him to translate something, I managed to see all his 5-6 immediate disciples. And they virtually had nothing. Piles of stone covered with some canvas thing, and then inside with very ragged, robes. Nothing whatsoever. I have seen this. I regret that I did not take photo. In those days, taking photos was not very common, I didn't have one, of course. I met all of them. So there was a British lady who my teacher requested that she help these meditators, except one. The money was at that time maybe, high value, but nothing much. It's 100 rupees, I remember, 100 Indian rupees. So when she started giving, except one, all of them refused. If I die today, what am I to do with this money? And later on I learned that even the neighbors, when they bring food, serve them food, at the right time, cooked food, they eat it. But if they give some uncooked food, it will be rot there. I've seen those people. So I'm not saying that we should all become like that. It's not possible. Okay? But all I'm saying is, if you have the determination, you can live and you can be happy. That's all I'm saying. But if you are not prepared, don't do that. It's risky. It's risky. There's a story of one person living at the time of Milarepa who was so fascinated by the life history of Milarepa, he said, I want to become like Milarepa. And he threw away everything that he possessed. Just within few days he started suffering because he was not mentally prepared. Then he said, this fellow Milarepa, not only he is a beggar, he turned me a beggar. You see? So don't do it if you're not prepared. Okay? So now I'll continue to read quickly. Someone who has here heard extensively have realized Dharma, though distressed is happy indeed. See how an individual develops strong attachment to the individual's mind, and the little they have is lost. Someone who has have heard extensively have realized Dharma, though destitute is happy indeed. See how an individual develops strong attachment to the individual's body, and the little they have is lost. So what he is saying is, if you have extensive hearing, then your attachment to the mind of other people, body of other people, or mind and body of yourself, that attachment will not be there, and therefore you will be very happy. And then contrarily, you see people who are attached to the minds of others, or your mind, attached to the body of others, or your bodies, they are lost. They destroy you because of this attachment. You will be lost. So that's the meaning. An individual who realizes the good in poverty, and the individual who becomes without anything are happy. You see? That's why I recounted this expression from the Buddha who said, I'm happy because I have nothing. See how an individual develops strong attachment to the individual's mind, and the little they have is lost. Now, verse 43. In an individual who realizes the good in poverty, and an individual who becomes without anything are happy. See how an individual develops strong attachment to the individual's body, and the little they have is lost. So in short, verse 44 is saying, all those under others' control are suffering, and all those who are free are happy. Clasping that is hard to give up is common to all and simply ruins one. So that means, that is what he's saying is, if you look at your life, you are conditioned by the causes and conditions, especially negative emotions and afflictive emotions and contaminated actions. So you are not only dependent, but you are dependent on negative emotions and contaminated actions. Okay? So therefore, all those who are under others' control, that means the causes and conditions. Others here means causes and conditions, especially the contaminated causes and conditions, then you experience suffering. Just like taking poison, you see. And contrarily, if you remain independent from the control of these negative emotions, then you will be happy. Now, if that is the case, then why don't we give up the causes of suffering? And this is answered by saying, that's not easy because you're addicted. You're addicted, you see. People who are chain smokers, those of us who don't smoke, say, why the stupid thing, you don't stop it right away. But that person is so addicted, it takes such a long time for him. The die-hard habit is very difficult to stop. Clasping, that is hard to give up. And it's common to everybody. It's not just few people. Okay? We are all conditioned by the negative emotions. And it's difficult to give up because we are addicted to it. Okay? And when you have that addiction, it simply ruins one. Okay? So therefore, through your practice, to live without attachment amongst humans who have attachment, and not being attached amongst the attached is indeed a very happy way to live. That means, even if you live among people who have a lot of attachment, if you are able to maintain a kind of distance or maintain your kind of maintain your stand or something like that, and make sure that you don't develop attachment, then that is the true mark of success of your practice. As I already mentioned, normally we get carried away by the crowd. Okay, we get carried away by the crowd. Human beings are more or less monkeys. Monkeys are very fond of imitating. Okay, in the human society, we are imitators, and those who does the best imitation is called the scholar. Right? Something like that. So we are very fond of imitating. Okay? So we are very fond of, the cheers from the crowd. We are very fond of, the flog mentality. I call it the flog mentality. Running with the crowd, you see. So even if you are among a crowd with full of attachment, if you are able to remain detached without those attachments, then you are really happy, you see. People are smoking, okay, let them smoke if you can't stop them, but you refuse to smoke, even if people insist. Okay? Then you are happy. To live without sickness among those stricken with sickness, not being sick amongst the sick is indeed a very happy way to live. That is also possible. That's also possible. Even if you live among sick people, but if you protect yourself well, you see, much of the sickness that we get is because we don't protect ourselves. We don't take precaution, you see. So that's why we become sick. But if you take precaution, you will not get sick, even if you are among sick people, you see. To live without violence amongst humans who are violent, to be without violence amongst violence is indeed a very happy way to live. I don't need to explain this, To be without harmful intention amongst humans who are harmful, without harm amongst harmful is indeed a very happy way to live. To live without revengefulness amongst revengeful people, amidst having no revengefulness is indeed a very happy way to live. Okay? So that is basically saying, to summarize, when you go in the crowd, for example, if you have a big boil somewhere, okay, a boil that's really hurting, big boil, and then say you're going into the marketplace or in a big crowd, you will be very careful, and you will make sure that people don't touch or, hit against your boil. You will be very alert, okay? So the Buddhist teachings say that when you mix with the crowd, just like as if you have a boil, very, very, painful boil, when you mix with the crowd, you watch your mind and make sure that your mind is not disturbed by the influences of other people's reactions. You have to be very, very alert. Okay? Although the town of Mithila is all ablaze, nothing of mine is burning up, since I have nothing whatsoever, is indeed a very happy way to live. I already explained this, The advantages of not having anything, or even if you have a lot of things, but if you have no obsession, it's like having nothing. Two ways of interpreting it. One, you virtually have nothing. Another, you have everything, but because you have no obsession, it's equal to nothing. Right? If your beautiful, very expensive, cup slips from your hand and breaks, two ways of dealing with it. One, oh my goodness, very expensive car, you feel sad, There's one way of. Another is, everything is transient, impermanent, nothing lasts long. Okay. So this last way is as if you have nothing, no obsession. So chala yuva samjiremendo, dila chashime. And therefore the Buddha says, although I have nothing, but since I eat on joy or live joy, like a god of the clear light, I indeed live very happily. So in terms of material, possessions, I have nothing, but that doesn't mean I have nothing to eat. I eat what? Joy. My food is joy. Like, for example, what is the food of anger? Anger, angry. When you get angry, in the Buddhist teaching it says, if you are a very hot-tempered, angry person, then stop giving food to anger. Starve anger. And let the anger die a natural death by giving not food. What is the food of anger? Food of anger is unhappiness of mind. When your mind is unhappy, then you get angry, then you get upset. So therefore, one important promise that you need to make is, whatever may come in my life, I will never make my mind unhappy. So similarly, in the case of positive emotions, they also have a food. And the food is happiness, joy. So I always sustain myself by eating joy, by eating happiness, like a god of the clear light. I indeed live very happy. Since I do not depend upon the transitory collections, that transitory collections means the psychophysical aggregate. The psychophysical aggregate is impermanent, transitory. It's a collection, it's a heap, it's an aggregate. So we use such technical terms, transitory collections.
Is that always same as mental afflictions?
Psychophysical aggregate.
It's same as mental afflictions.
No, transitory collection is the aggregate of the body and the mind. The collection of the body and mind together, collection. It is impermanent, therefore it is called transitory. Okay? Transitory. So normally, since I do not depend upon the transitory collections, means you are dependent but not in the sense of getting obsessed. Okay? You don't get obsessed with your body. Ordinarily we get so obsessed with our body, so obsessed with our mind, and then you get problem. But when you don't have that obsession, although I do not have anything, but since I live on joy, I indeed live very happy, or very happily, live very happy. Okay? Due to grasping, there is meeting and contact. Without grasping, what will meet and hence no contact? The happiness and suffering cultivated by oneself and others will not make us contact in solitude and town. So that means, if you look at how graspings, we have been talking about how to stop craving and grasping. How does grasping and craving arise? Grasping and craving arise because of coming into contact with many things. Contact with people, contact with the pleasures, contact with material possessions and things like that. So if you stop that contact, okay, due to grasping there is meeting and contact. If you don't have that grasping, there's no need for you to go to keep in touch with those things. Okay? Without grasping, what will meet? There's no meeting. There will be no contact. Okay? The happiness is, and if you reach such a state, then the happiness, suffering cultivated by oneself and others will not make us contact in solitude. In town means whether you remain in solitude alone or you live in big town, so long as you don't have this grasping, you don't need to unnecessarily contact this, that. You don't unnecessarily say, I want this, I want that. You don't have that kind of requirement. You don't have that contact. So there will be no suffering. The pains and pleasures of this world do not affect the sublime being. See, the pain and pleasures of this world is there for ordinary people and also sublime people. How come that it affects the ordinary people, not the sublime people? Because of attitude. Even among ordinary people, some people are very easily affected, others don't get affected. The same pain, same pleasure is there, but because of your mental attitude. Because of your mental attitude. And Shantideva gives this example like people going to the war. When people go to war, go to fight, there are two kinds of people. One, what we call as coward, who are not very brave. Then another, who are so-called the brave people. When the brave people go to the war, not only they will not be, disheartened by seeing the blood of oneself and others, but in fact, when they see the blood of oneself and others, they get emboldened and fight more. Whereas the coward, just by seeing the blood of, others or yours, you faint and fall. You see, same situation, but differences in terms of mental attitude. Okay. The pains and pleasures of this world do not affect the sublime beings. Those steadfast will not be swayed due to desires. The sublime beings travel everywhere. Okay, the sublime beings travel everywhere. Sublime beings travel everywhere. That means the sublime beings travel everywhere. That means whether they go and travel in solitude, whether they go into big towns, wherever they go, they have this, stability. Okay? They will not be like, in our case, ordinary people, when we are in certain situation, we get very excited. In another situation, we get very discouraged. So there's too much ups and downs in our life. Whereas these sublime beings, wherever they go, in solitude, in towns, with many people, with just few people, or alone, their stability is always like this. there's no much ups and downs. Okay, that's the meaning.
Consistent.
Consistency. Right? So they don't have arrogance and they don't also have depression, discouragement. Because if it's a very difficult situation, they will use it as a facilitating factor for transforming misfortune into the path. You see? Things like that. Okay? So it is basically your mental attitude which is responsible for having happiness and peace. Okay, we are done. One or two questions if you have, quick questions with this text or any question which has been bothering you or which you wanted to discuss.
This text has a very strong element of renunciation. So, in other words, renouncing a lot of the worldly conventional
Exactly.
things, you know.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, for some of us who are born into a world where the only thing that's seen as important is this constant consumption of things and consumption.
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And this text for me is in a way difficult to take in because it's in my mental conditioning. It's contrary to everything I know.
Yes.
Contrary to everything I
Yes,
know.
yes.
But to make that shift.
But you answered it. You answered it by saying it is difficult. You did not say it is impossible.
I did not say it's impossible.
Exactly. So difficult, yes. Difficult, even getting food is difficult. That doesn't mean you will stop eating.
Yeah.
Even getting food is difficult. You have to work, you have to get educated, you have to find a job. It's very difficult. So difficult doesn't mean you can't do it. Difficult doesn't mean it's not important to it. Okay? And in fact, I already explained that we have very strong die-hard habit, conditioning, addiction. So for anybody, not just people like you, even for me or for anybody, easier said than done. To stop this addiction and conditioning is very difficult. Right now when I'm thinking and explaining, it looks okay. But when again, I had this experience, I'll tell you my experience, very special experience, which you will love. When I was not translating for His Holiness, I used to study in the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics, which is just close to the temple where His Holiness gives the teaching. I go, when His Holiness is giving teaching, I take my text with my pen and pencil, and then he is explaining, then I take notes, and I get so inspired that I must now do some practice. I must develop this. Very, very determined, very, very committed when I'm listening to the teaching. You know how long it lasts? Up to the threshold of the temple. Honestly. As soon as I cross the threshold of the temple, with the rest of the crowd, it's really like saying, welcome back to the familiar world. It's that easy to not to continue to practice. But that does not mean to say that change will not happen. You may not even notice how change is happening. So whatever, for example, what we have been discussing, some of that has already sunk in the part of your mind. You see? So slowly and unnoticingly, change takes place. Because when we study such texts, whether we are able to practice it right away or not, we are at least clear that yes, it is true. Yes, it is true. You are sitting there, you came for 3 days, because you are agreeing what we are discussing. Yes, it is true. It is important. So that means you are receptive. That means you are already acknowledging the truth of the teaching. So it is really sinking in your mind. And there will be no push button enlightenment, boom and everything, blossoms. Not like that, but change is taking place. And that is in fact the good news. slowly but surely. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Today and also yesterday we talked a lot about right company.
Mm.
So just being surrounded by the right types of people to keep you in the Dharma.
Mm.
And my question is like, how do you better understand right discrimination of this? And
Very good.
also about like the subtle tendencies of other people.
One very good example, I will try to explain a little more, but one very good example that is given in the text is, how would you relate to fire? How would you relate to fire? Especially in winter, you need warmth of the fire, okay? Just as we need friendship, similarly we need warmth of the fire. So because you need the warmth of the fire, you will not touch the fire. You will not try to catch hold of the fire. If you do that, the fire will burn you. So you will not touch it, meaning you will not go too close. And at the same time, if you go very far, you will never get the warmth of the fire. So you stay at a distance where you are able to get the warmth but not get burnt. Something like that. Yeah, something like that. Always try to, as much as possible, and especially when you are not very sure, maintain a distance. And there will be many occasions when it is important for you to say no politely. Because if you don't feel like going with somebody, you don't have to say, no, you don't have to get angry, things like that. Okay? One, right in the initial stage when you're not so familiar with some people, you don't make yourselves, present yourself in such a way that as if you are already very close to that person. Don't do that. Okay? And then on occasions when you are invited to come here, come there, if you don't see, not necessarily the person is bad, but you don't see much benefit going up there, you need to say no politely. And I've learned this through my work, you see. Because if you just do whatever other people are saying, come up, come down, then you are unable to think for yourself, you see. Yes, there are occasions when we need to socialize, go with the people, of course, we can do that, but you should not be so stupid so that you go everywhere people ask you to come. No, you need to take your stand. So there are things like that, right? Yeah. Okay. So I will again read one line, just as we have this beautiful words from Shantideva, where he says, if it is something you can change, don't worry because you can change it. If it is something you cannot change it, don't worry because by worrying you can't change it. So recently, because I'm reading a lot of books, I found similar teachings in other literatures, non-Buddhist literatures. Here is one which says, for every evil under the sun, there is a remedy or there is none. If there be one, try to find it. If there be none, never mind it. It's amazing, you see. So this kind of approach to anything is very, very useful in one's life. Okay, now we read the prayer and then close. May those with fear be fearless. May those under bondage be freed. May those without be empowered. May our hearts join in friendship. Thank you. Thank you.